Before you begin to lose your mind in the comments section, let me explain myself. It's not what you think. The greatest quarterback of all time is still undisputed, and we have the stats to back it up. But this is about what Tom Brady did off the field that cements him as the true GOAT. Tom Brady has been called overrated for his entire career. People will say he only won with New England, and then he had all those weapons out in Tampa. And yeah, some of these statements do hold truth. He did win 6 Super Bowls with New England and 1 with Tampa. And he did have some incredible wide receivers to throw to in both places. But if it was just about the stats, people wouldn't be talking like this. If it was just about the stats, he would have lost his undisputed status years ago. We are going to look at the stats today, but we are also going to look at how Tom Brady changed the NFL forever and why no other quarterback can touch him. Let's break it down. To start, let's talk about the stats because there are a lot of them. But here's the thing, it's not all about the records. It's also about what those stats mean. Like we said, he was fortunate enough to play with some great wide receivers in New England and Tampa, but the way he elevated their game and maximized their talent is the reason he will never lose his GOAT status. Julian Edelman was not an amazing wide receiver coming out of college. In fact, he was drafted in the 7th round. Rob Gronkowski might have been a different player if he didn't play with Tom Brady. These are 2 prime examples of players that were maximized by Tom. He made them better, and he made them famous. Here's another crazy stat about Tom Brady. Do you know how many tight ends have caught 1,000 or more passes? Only 2, Rob Gronkowski and Rob Gronkowski. In case you didn't catch it, that's right, the same player. And who was his quarterback for all of those catches? You guessed it, Tom Brady. In case you don't remember, Gronk retired after the 2018 season, only to come back in 2020 after hearing that Tom Brady was playing for Tampa. Why? Because he knew he could maximize his talent and have a chance at another ring. Another player who can attest to Tom's ability to maximize talent is Antonio Brown. After being drafted by Pittsburgh, he quickly rose to stardom, making it to the Pro Bowl in 2011 and 2012. He continued to excel over the next few seasons until he got to New England. His stats dipped as he had multiple run-ins with the law, and he was eventually released. Some people saw this as a sign that Tom Brady was losing his touch, but they couldn't be more wrong. A year later, he signs with Tampa Bay and immediately explodes again, breaking the single-season record for receiving yards. Now, some people would say that it was because Tampa needed a wide receiver and the ball was just thrown his way a lot. So what happens in 2022 when Rob Gronkowski retires, Chris Godwin gets hurt, and Mike Evans is double-teamed all year? Does Antonio Brown have another resurgence? No. In fact, he was basically invisible for the majority of the season and ended up getting cut. The point is, Tom Brady maximizes the talent around him. And without Tom Brady, these wide receivers wouldn't have become the players that they did. And that's why he'll never lose his GOAT status. You know what else he did that no other quarterback has done? He completely changed the free agency market. Now, you might be thinking, what does he have to do with free agency? I mean, he wasn't the first quarterback to switch teams. There were plenty of others before him. But it was Tom Brady that started the trend of quarterbacks switching teams every couple of years. And that brings in a whole new dynamic to the game. It used to be that once a quarterback found a team that they excelled with, they stayed there for their whole career. You could argue that Tom Brady was the first quarterback to play for 2 teams. And then what happened? After he left New England, everybody wanted a piece of the pie. What team couldn't use a good quarterback? All of a sudden, every team was willing to give up massive amounts of money to get him. And then what happened? Teams that hadn't shown interest in giving big contracts to quarterbacks in the past were now giving them huge deals to try and compete. Phillip Rivers signs with Indianapolis. Matthew Stafford goes to Los Angeles. Carson Wentz goes to Indianapolis. Deshaun Watson goes to Cleveland. Russell Wilson goes to Denver. Aaron Rodgers goes to New York. Kirk Cousins goes to Minnesota. The list goes on. Now, you could argue that this is what the players wanted, and you'd be right. But what if they didn't want it before Tom Brady? Free agency had changed. Tom Brady had paved the way for players to make a ton of money. When he signed with Tampa, everyone took notice. This is a 42-year-old quarterback that just led the Patriots to 3 Super Bowls in the last decade, and we're going to give him $30 million a year. How could anyone say no to that? Not only did it open up free agency, but it also opened up the cap space to keep players longer. In New England, the Patriots weren't known for paying their players big money. Sure, they paid some of them okay money, but they rarely ever paid players top dollar. But what happens when Tom Brady comes along? Well, they have to pay him top dollar. And then what happens? The Patriots realize they can still win with young, cheap talent. They trade for a guy named Davin Godchaux, who was released by Miami. They draft a wide receiver from LSU named Jamar Chase, who turns out to be one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Just 2 examples. And then, what happens? Their salary cap goes down. Are they a lower tax team? Yes. Did they still find a way to win? Yes. And it's all because Tom Brady changed the market. He created this new era of free agency, and that's why he'll never lose his GOAT status. And finally, it's not all about the stats. There's something else that we need to consider. As we said earlier, Tom Brady won 7 Super Bowls, and he was the MVP of 5 of them. But what people forget is that he also played in 3 other Super Bowls. He doesn't have the rings to show for it, but he played in the biggest game of his life 5 times and gave it everything he had. That's what being a GOAT is all about. It's not just about winning, it's about showing up every time and giving it your all. A perfect example of this is Super Bowl X-Leffy against the New York Giants. This was the Patriots' undefeated season, and they were poised to go all the way. They had the greatest regular season of all time. And then what happens? The New York Giants come in and spoil the party. Eli Manning throws for 255 yards and 2 touchdowns, and the Giants win 17-14. To say that Tom Brady played poorly is an understatement. He threw for only 266 yards and a touchdown. He also had 2 interceptions. And to top it all off, he fumbled the ball near midfield with less than a minute left in the game and the score tied at 14. Do you know what the New York Giants did on the next play? They ran a pass interference penalty on what would have been a 3rd and long, giving the Giants a first down and eventually setting up the game-winning field goal. Can you imagine if Tom Brady hadn't fumbled the ball? Would the game have turned out differently? We'll never know. But what we do know is that Tom showed up and played in the biggest game of his life, despite having arguably his worst game of the year. That's what being a GOAT is all about. It's not just about winning, it's about showing up every time and giving it your all. So is Tom Brady the greatest of all time? Yes. And the stats back it up. He has the most Super Bowl wins, the most Super Bowl MVPs, the most passing yards, the most passing touchdowns, and the list goes on. But it's not just about the stats. It's also about what he did for the game. He changed free agency forever. He changed the way teams spend their money. He made stars out of average players. He showed up every time and gave it his all. That's why he'll never lose his GOAT status. Now check out how much money does Tom Brady have? Or watch this video instead.